Good morning, IGs. We're going to be looking at exercise 13.9 and I'm going to be doing a couple of these so that you can see how they need to work. So the first one I'm going to look at is number 1, which says that when a number x is added to its square. In other words, what it is saying is that we've got to take x, let me just make that a bit lower so you can see it. So x plus its square, which is x squared, and that answer is equal to 12. So what this does is it creates a quadratic equation. Okay, if we rewrote this equation, we'd write it as follows. Again, remember, we make all equations equal to 0 when we want to solve them. We can have the x squared plus the x, just reversing those, minus the 12 is equal to 0. And that means that we can solve this, because what are the factors of 12? Well, they are again 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. And the only ones that will give me a positive 1 for the middle term is the 4 and the 3. If I say 4 minus 3. So therefore I can factorize this bracket again to x plus 4 and x minus 3. And that is equal to 0. And that gives me solutions for the x of x equals minus 4 or positive 3. There we go. So that's a word sum that you have now translated into mathematics, and you now have a solution for it. Let's look at number 2. Number 2 says a number x is equal to its own square. Alright, so we're going to take the number x and we're going to make it equal to its own square. There we go. And it says a number x equal to its own square minus 42. There we go. And then it says find 2 possible values for x. Alright, again, we'll reorganize this. So we'll make it x squared minus 42. And then we'll take the x on the left hand side there and bring it over, so make it minus x. And of course on the other side we would have had 0, but we can just put the 0 over here. So there we've got x squared minus 42 minus x. If you want to rearrange that, let's do that by saying x squared minus x minus 42. And again, we now need values from 42, or factors of 42, that will give us a minus 1. Now the answers here are that the values 6 and 7 can give a 1. So if I use that, I need to have a 6 minus a 7 to give me a minus 1. So therefore I've got x minus 7, x plus 6 equals 0. And from here on again you can see that the solution x must be 7 or negative 6. Right, are you happy so far? I hope you are. Let's go on to question. I'm going to do the number 4 question because it's similar to number 3. Okay, so this one says if the area of the rectangle is 52 square centimeters, what is the possible value for x? Now they gave us the sides of the rectangle as x and x plus 9. Let's draw it up here quickly. So we've got x plus 9 and x over here. Okay, so there's our rectangle, x plus 9 and x, and that told us that the area is 52. Now how do we calculate area of a rectangle? I'm sure you all know that it's length times breadth. So in other words, if we multiply the length, which is x plus 9, times the breadth, which is x, we must get an answer of, it says 52, because that's what they told us that the area is. Alright, so let's multiply out the bracket. We get x times the x over here. There's x times the x, and also 9 times the x. That gives us x squared. Let me just erase that there quickly. No, those don't want to erase now because they've drawn circles there. X squared, let's just write it here, plus 9x. And we'll take the 52 over, make it minus 52 must be equal to 0. Alright, so what are the factors of 52? Well, the first ones are 52 and 1. Okay, that's not going to give us a 9. If we halve the 52, we get 26, so that's 26 and 2. That's also not going to give us a 9. But if we halve the 26, we get a 13, and then we'll have to double the 2 to get a 4. So 13 and 4 does give us a 9 if we say 13 minus 4. So in this case, we can write x plus 13 and x minus 4. This will give us the minus 52 if we multiply the 13 by the minus 4, but it will also give us the 9x if we have the 13 times the x and the minus the 4x. Okay, and so there we've got answers then of x equals minus 13 and x is equal to 4. Now the question said what is the only solution, and we've found 2. But remember, being a length, we cannot measure a minus 13 length. So that is a solution that doesn't make practical sense for our story. So therefore only the solution x equals 4 is valid. So in this story only x equals 4 can be used because we can't make the x over here a minus 13. There's no such length to measure. Okay, so that's number 4. Let's move on. I'm going to also do number 6 this time. So this one says a triangle has a base length of x minus 8. Let's draw ourselves a nice triangle here. Right, there we go. We've got a nice triangle in the top there. And it says the base length is x minus 8. Right, let's write that in here. X minus 8. Okay, so x minus 8 is our length. And the height of 2x. Okay, so if we draw in a height here, then we know that this is 2x. Alright, so there's the 2x height. If the area is 20, we can calculate the height and the base length. Okay, so let's see, we know that the area is 20. Now what's the formula for area for a triangle? We all know that it is a half the base times the height. Well, what's the base in this case? Let's fill it in. Half x minus 8. And what's the height? 2x. So all of this must be equal to what? Well, they told us that it's equal to 20. Okay, so there we have a formula for working out. Okay, so let's multiply in now. So if we multiplied the 2x and the x minus 8 brackets first, because we'll do those first, we'll say 2x times the x. Okay, what is that? That's 2x squared. And then we'll say minus 8 times the 2x, which is minus 16x. Now, I could multiply the half into all of that, but it's probably easier to divide the half away and say just divide by a half and then divide the other side by a half. Now, what is 20 divided by a half? In other words, what is 20 if you had 20 pizzas and you divided them each into halves? Okay, how many halves would you have? Okay, so 20 divided by half is the same as saying 20 times 2. Okay, remember when we divide a fraction, we end up multiplying that fraction by its inverse. So the inverse of a half is 2, so we're going to take the 20 and multiply by 2, so in other words, we'll have 40 over here. Now again, we see we've got a quadratic equation, so let's take all of this over again and make it 0. So 2x squared minus 16x minus 40 must be equal to 0. Okay, so there we go. And then what does that leave us with? Well, the first thing I notice is that if all these values, the 2, the 16, and the 40, could all be divided by 2 just to make things a little bit simpler. So I think we can go there first as well. So let's do that. I'm just going to move on to the left-hand side of the screen here. And we're going to say, let's divide by 2. So that would leave us with x squared. The 16x will leave us with 8x. And the 40 will leave us with 20. Of course, if we do the other side, 0 divided by 2 is still 0. Okay, so there we go. We now have a quadratic expression we can solve. What are the factors of 20? Well, 20 will give us 20 and 1. That's not going to give us an 8. 10 and 2, yes, if I have 10 and 2, I can say 10 minus 2 or minus 10 plus 2 to give us the minus 8 that we're looking for. So then it is x minus 10 and x plus 8 equals 0. And of course that gives solutions of 10 and minus 8. But again, because we're working with lengths, only the positive answer counts. So they wanted to know what the base and the height was. So if we substitute the x as being 10 into the original triangle, so over here 10 minus 8 is 2, so then we know our base was 2, and our height, 2 times 10 must be 20. Okay, our height must be 2 times 10, which is 20. So in other words, we have a triangle here, and let's erase this quickly. Our triangle that we were given had a base of 2 and a height of 20. Well, let's do the area of that triangle. Half base times height. Remember, half of 2 is 1. 1 times 20 is 20. Does that give me an answer of 20 as we suggested earlier? It absolutely does. So this must be one of the correct answers, or the only correct answer that we need for the sum. All right. Lastly, I'm going to do question number 8 for you, and this is a rectangular flower garden, or garden has a square flower bed of sides x meters in one of its corners. The remainder of the garden consists of lawn and has the following dimensions. So we can see that the lawn is 7 meters at the top with that x, and then 2 meters on the side also with the x. And the total area of the lawn, it says, is 50 meters squared. Now it says form an equation in terms of x. All right, so this is going to be a little more interesting because we will have to use a couple of formulas here. So the first thing I'm going to say is that if I multiplied the 7 by 2, that would give me the following. So let's just draw our garden out here quickly. There we go. Also got a square over here. Okay, so we know that this part here is 7, but that part is x, and that part is x, and this part is 2. Okay, there it is. Now, the first square I'm going to do, I'm going to actually divide this garden up a little bit more, okay, into a couple of rectangles. So this rectangle over here, let's put a tick, okay, this rectangle over here has a measurement of 7 by 2, okay. You can see that its breadth is 7 and its length is 7 and its breadth is 2. So for that, the area is 7 times 2. Let's write it down, and we know that that's 14. Okay, so there we go. This rectangle over here has a area that is 7x because it is 7 times the x. Okay, so let's go 7x because it has a length of 7 there. There's the length of 7, and there is the breadth of x. This rectangle over here has a breadth of 2 but a length of x, so that is 2 times x, which is 2x. Okay, and that's all the lawn area, and so they told us that that lawn area, okay, must be equal to 50. All right, so let's go there. So let's add up. We have 9x plus 14 equals 50, which makes that equal to 9x is equal to 50 minus 14 if we take it over, which is 36, and that means that our x must be equal to 4. Okay, so we've solved the equation. This is part B already done. Then it says calculate the length and the width of the whole garden. Well, being 4, we've got to say that the length of the whole garden is 7 plus the x, which is 7 plus the 4. So if we make that there and this one here plus, we're going to have an area of 11, or sorry, a length of 11. So this one here is 11, and this one over here, x plus 2, is going to be 6. So the whole garden is 11 plus 6, or 11 and 6 for its length and its breadth. Okay, so there we go. That's exercise 13.9. I hope that's helped you to answer some of the questions in that exercise.